Hello and welcome to Elevate Your Potential, Learn to Market Yourself. My name is Dave Kieran. I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships for Rangam Consultants. Rangam is a global workforce solutions company. So think of us as like a staffing plus company. We're headquartered in northern New Jersey, and we've been around for more than 25 years doing that work, working with lots of companies from around the world, some of the biggest corporations, helping them find talent to find and fill their open roles. So much of this work is what we call just traditional staffing that anyone can take advantage of. What I want to talk to you about today with two special guests is a framework that we call Source-Able. Now, this is a framework that we use, that we implement with those same company clients, but it's really focused on education and training for those companies to help them attract and retain and support employees with disabilities and with neurodivergences, differences like autism or ADHD or learning differences. And specifically, Pfizer Source-Able, that's the name of the program we're talking about today. That's Pfizer's disability hiring framework that we at Source-Able help them implement. And my friend Anne is here, which I'm so glad because she knows more about this program than anyone at our company. So Anne, could I ask you to introduce yourself and just a moment about your role?
Sure. So Anne Fahey, I'm the solutions specialist for the Pfizer Source-Able program, which basically means I help to implement a supportive and inclusive hiring program in the company and try and make things, sure that things run smoothly. I also like to always say that I have had about 8 years experience working and supporting with this population and 27 years of hands-on experience with my son who's autistic. So I'm really a big supporter of this program.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Anne. So Anne, like so many of my colleagues, has a real professional and personal connection to our mission, and I think it just makes us that much stronger. Now, I'm also really excited because we love to partner with as many organizations as we can that can help connect our client companies to the talent that they're seeking. So that means we seek to collaborate with high school transition programs, universities, community colleges, as well as community-based service providers, and maybe most importantly, our state agencies. So these are departments of labor in the states or vocational rehabilitation around the country. So one really important partner to us is Mike Sanders from Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission at MRC. That's that state's voc rehab department. Mike, thank you so much for joining. Could you introduce yourself and maybe take a second to just kind of talk about that voc rehab system and what MRC is?
Thank you, Dave. So my name is Mike Sanders. I'm the Director of Workforce Talent Development for the state of Massachusetts in the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. And what we do is we help individuals with disabilities return back into the workplace. My primary role is to help individuals aspire to attain the skills through the training that I developed throughout the state, so that way they could come back again into the workforce and have a sustainable job. I've been with the organization for about 2 years, and I've been helping out individuals with disabilities over the past 15 years, maybe about 4,500 people over the course of my lifetime. I helped gain employment. But at the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, we help with a variety of different services, whether it's counseling, job placement services, getting people back into the workplace and helping them maintain and sustain a great environment for themselves for employability.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. And that's a system that if you're not familiar with your state's vocational rehabilitation system, I highly encourage you to check it out. It is a bureaucracy, right? It is a government department, but it's a really important resource that if you are a person with disability, you may be entitled to their services. So you'll hear some of what Mike does and his team today. And if you're not in Massachusetts, that's okay. So much of this stuff applies across all 50 states and US territories. So a lot of this will be universal. So we chose 3 topics to talk about today on this session, and they're topics that we hear about and we get asked about a lot by job seekers with differences like autism, and also people who work with them, right, at universities or at service providers. So the 3 topics we want to talk about are maybe things that we can work on while we're not in school. So whether you're on summer break or during a holiday, or you have a light workload this semester, how can you use some of that downtime to continue to improve yourself in the eyes of these prospective employers? So elevator pitches is one. What is it? How do we prepare one for ourselves? And what might we use it? Next is networking. Oh my gosh, networking can be really hard, especially if you have a neurodivergent condition like autism. How can I do that during my time off? And then lastly, what are transferable skills? Are there skills that maybe I didn't even realize I've had that can be applied to a job I want? So those are the three topics. And let's begin with an elevator pitch. Now, not everyone may know what an elevator pitch is. How would you describe it and its purpose?
So just real broadly, it's a quick 1 to 2 minute synopsis or overview of who you are and 2 to 3 key points that you want to present to your audience, 2 or 3 key points that are going to benefit your audience. So you want to give them enough detail and information to pique their interest and want them coming back for more, but not so much information where you've lost them. So it's a great way of marketing yourself to, anybody you meet that might be able to help you further your career. Quick 2 to 3 key points that are going to show a benefit to your audience.
Got it, like a little bit of a taster or a teaser. They want
That's enough to make them want to come back for more.
To learn more. I got it. How about you, Mike? Could you give us what you think are the key elements or like an outline of what should be in an elevator pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the key elements in a job pitch are, first, you want to introduce yourself with a friendly and confident tone. Then you want to focus on the problem-solving aspect. So the challenges or the pain points of an employer that they might be facing within their organization or industry, and understand their needs so that way you can contribute to overcoming their challenges. And then you want to position yourself in that solution. So talk about your unique skills, your experiences, your qualifications that can make you an ideal fit. And now it's time for you to emphasize your unique selling points. So what sets you apart from other candidates? What kinds of things have you done? Do you have strong leadership skills? Do you have the ability to adapt quickly, expertise in a specific area? And don't forget to align yourself to those employer needs. Show what you've done on your research on that company and understand their values, goals, and cultures. If you have any relevant accomplishments or success stories, definitely share them. Provide some good examples of how you made a positive impact on your previous roles or projects, or even your volunteer work. So talk about those skills and abilities. And wrap up your elevator pitch with a clear call to action. So let the employer know that you're interested further in discussing an opportunity, or you love to explore how you can contribute to their team too. And lastly, leave a memorable closing. Reiterate your enthusiasm for the position, the company, why you want to connect with that person in the future, and thank them for their time and consideration. So remember, it may be the only chance that you could have to make a strong impression, to stand out from everyone else out there. So craft it carefully, spend some time on it, and tailor it to each person that you're talking to.
Great advice, Mike. I especially loved, research the company, right? A lot of this information you can glean from writings on their website, posts in the news, etc. You can kind of find what's happening in that company, what are some trends, maybe what are some pain points they have. And is there anything that you'd want to avoid when giving an elevator pitch?
I would say don't come across too salesy or rehearsed. I mean, you want to be professional. You want to know what you're going to say, but you don't want to be like robotic. You need to be, yourself and just express it in a conversational way. I would say you would also want to avoid it. And Mike kind of touched on this. It's not a one size fits all. So kind of like your resume, I think you could have a core elevator pitch, but you're going to need to modify that and tweak it a bit here and there, depending upon your audience, because one key thing that's going to make them want to come back for more is that you're showing a benefit to them. So I think that's, something you want to avoid. And then lastly, you don't want to do like an info dump where you're going on and you've lost them, but you do want to make sure you get enough information again. So they are like, okay, I want to get back to this person. So that's kind of what I would say.
It's a great point, but it sounds like there's a bit of a balance there. So what do you feel is the ideal length, Anne, of an elevator pitch? And could you give an example of when you might use it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, there's exceptions to every rule. I would say 1 to 2 minutes, ideally. If you have somebody with, a lot of experience, or maybe it's a very technical background that they're trying to convey their pitch to, it could go longer. But you go much longer than 2 minutes, and they're going to start to glaze over and kind of lose interest, is what I think. And then did you say where you would use it? Is that what you're
Yeah, sorry, but when, do you have any ideas or examples of when or where you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is kind of not to be evasive, but pretty much everywhere. And what I mean by that is you can use it in more like schedule type of events. Like, let's say you're doing a virtual career event or, person career event, and then definitely. But you can also use it, again, keeping in mind that it's not one size fits all. You need to kind of tweak it for your audience. I mean, think of like the 4th of July barbecue. You're around aunts and uncles and friends. What are you doing? Oh, you're going to school. What are you looking for? Bingo. There's your elevator pitch modified towards that audience. There's just so many times when you're just out in your natural environment where people want to help. They want to know what you're up to. It's a perfect segue to doing that, modified elevator pitch.
I love that, Anne. And, you just reminded me, I was at a conference this week, and I literally found myself in the elevator with someone who I was hoping to speak to. And so just a comment here, because maybe, we're using very concrete language. And when we call this an elevator pitch, that's just a saying. And the saying is you want to have it tight enough that you can finish it by the time you get off the elevator at the bottom. So I was on this elevator with this woman, a very senior executive, but I knew I really was only going to have about 15 seconds. And so I didn't try to do it then. I found her later on at the coffee line, and I gave her my elevator pitch then, right? So it wasn't literally an elevator pitch, but it was my 2-minute pitch, just happened to be at the coffee line. So just wanted to clarify that in case anyone's taking this, extremely literally, which I know some of us do. Mike, could you, using yourself as an example, if you don't mind, could you give us an example of an elevator pitch?
Yeah, sure. Going off of what Anne said before, you really have to tailor it to your audience. One of the things I do, I go to a lot of conferences, work development workshops where you get a chance to meet many people. So there's a chance for us to converge together to be able to connect and make future possibilities happen with our government organization and their company. So I might say something along the lines of, I'm Mike Sanders. I'm the Director of Workforce Talent Development for the state of Massachusetts. I specialize in creating unique training programs for individuals with disabilities, helping them find sustainable employment and become self-sufficient. And with a diverse set in digital marketing, e-learning, and remote implementation, I bring impactful initiatives to the table. And as a dynamic public speaker, I've shared my ideas in TED Talks, conferences, and e-learning forums. In my previous roles, I led the marketing efforts for NTI at Home and collaborated with top-tier companies to provide job opportunities for people with disabilities. So let's connect and drive positive change in workforce talent development together.
Very nice. That was concise. It gave me a great understanding of your role, but only a taste. So I need to kind of follow up with you to get more, right, Mike? So that was fantastic. Thank you for that.
And I love how you said, let's connect at the end.
Yeah, right, giving like an action, right? Mm-hmm. Mike, before we move off of elevator pitches, we know that MRC has a wonderful, much more extensive virtual training that focuses on this. How can people learn more about that?
We do. We offer both online as well as online instructor-led. So at the MRC, we provide a comprehensive career service courses through our dedicated job placement team, which I'm a part of. Our offerings, we go way beyond mere theoretical knowledge. So we could prioritize hands-on career consultation with our experienced counselors. And additionally, we have an immersive workshop called Career Connections, which includes our elevator pitch workshop and aims to prepare individuals with the demands of the workplace. And as an added advantage is that residents of Massachusetts could take advantage of our services by enrolling at mass.gov /MRC-Connect, while simultaneously using the resources offered by SourceAbled. Moreover, throughout the United States, like you said before, Dave, there's similar programs available, such as the ones offered by the MRC, which will greatly assist the individuals listening in on this call.
Thanks for that, Mike. Yep, absolutely. I will encourage you all, again, no matter what state you're in, especially if you're joining us from Massachusetts, but any of the 50 states or territories, you will find similar resources through your vocational rehabilitation department. So thanks, Ann and Mike. Now that we've covered what an elevator pitch is and the basics of how to put it together, how and when do you go about using it or promoting yourself in general, right? So that brings us now to networking. And I know many, especially neurodivergent and autistic job seekers who really struggle with this, and their parents often also struggle with this. You know, people with a disability whose hallmarks are challenges with communication and social communication in particular. This is really hard. So, and just to begin with, we recognize networking is not much fun for anyone. Do you have any advice for students with disabilities who might be worried about this?
Well, first of all, I mean, like you said, it can be tricky and challenging and scary for anybody, you know, regardless of whether you have a disability or not. But I am a huge fan of networking and think it's just extremely important in, you know, you're finding a job. So first of all, for anybody, I would say don't overcomplicate it and don't underestimate the value of it. So if you hear the word networking, I mean, I used to break out into a cold sweat, you know, with the thought of networking. I would kind of visualize being in a room where you have to go from job, you know, like a CEO or a big wig, you know, and just be on the spotlight. And that was just very scary and very intimidating to me. And networking is really just communicating. It doesn't have to be structured. It can be, most definitely can be, but people want to help each other. Once you start the networking, it takes on a life of its own and kind of, you know, spreads for you. So you do need to make that initial network, but that initial network might be reaching out to my professor or to somebody who's in the field that I'm interested in and expressing like, I really want to work at such and such company or in such and such field. Then they start to network for you. And next thing you know, it's going. I always think that networking verbally is the most beneficial if you feel that that's something you can do. But there's additional ways as well. You can network via email. Now, I don't mean sending out a cold call like that. Definitely not. But if somebody, you know, provides you with a connection, you can reach out to them and say, hey, do you know anybody else that I might want to contact? I think you can even network on written print. And what I mean by that is I think the verbal networking is very important, but I think it's very important also to have like a business card size thing that you can just do free on the computer. Just put your name and a brief sentence or two, kind of going back to the elevator pitch, that after you've networked, you can just leave it behind with them so that later on, they might not have a job opportunity for you now or somebody they're thinking about, but later on they're going to think, oh, well, what was the name of that person? You know, so that's another easy way to do it. So it's not as scary as it might originally sound. And again, don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it, but definitely don't underestimate the value.
Absolutely. And, you know, Anne, I told you I wasn't going to throw you a curveball, but I'm going to throw
That's
you
right.
a very slight curveball because I know you have a really good personal story about this. What I wanted to bring up was I actually was speaking to a friend whose autistic daughter recently graduated college, and she's kind of struggling with guilt and shame over taking advantage of a program like a SourceAbled. You know, it's like that maybe she wouldn't be doing it herself, but she's really struggling in doing it herself, right? Like, how do you find the right person at a huge global corporation to talk to? So I want to just throw out there, you know, that most of us, and Anne, you can add to this however you'd like. Most of us got our jobs because of someone we knew, because of a connection to a
Absolutely.
friend or even just an acquaintance. And do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just share a quick story. Well, first of all, every single job I've gotten since my first job out of college has been through networking. Most of them somebody else on my behalf. But the first job I got, I was a marketing research major originally. That was my career. And I wanted to work for this company, AC Nielsen, which a lot of people may not know. That was the company for marketing research. So I'm just going to kind of change that to somebody who is in the scientific field wanting to work for a Pfizer. So they're a big company. They're like, wow, how in the world do I get in there? I don't have anything to make me rise above the top from other people. So I'm in the car with my boyfriend, his parents. We drive by, I'll say Pfizer. And I said, that's where I want to work. And my boyfriend's father says, huh. He's a cop at O'Hare. He says, huh, I let the chauffeur of the CEO of Pfizer park illegally at the airport all the time. I'll just talk to the chauffeur, see what he can do. I'm thinking, no way. So he talks to the chauffeur, who talks to the CEO, who talks to HR, who comes back to him and says, have her call this person. Look at all this networking that's going on because I just made that comment. I call HR. I got the CEO that's telling him to talk to me. I mean, I really am not that much, I've got a pretty level playing ground, but not anymore because the CEO networked for me and I got that job. So, I mean, that's kind of an extreme, example, but it's a true example. And it's probably why I'm such a big fan of networking.
Yeah, it's a great, they don't always work out that well, but it's a great illustration of, it never can hurt and you never know who might be on the other end. Mm-hmm. So getting back to our questions, Anne, how can Pfizer SourceAbled help someone who might be struggling with how to network?
Okay. Well, first, to address your comment earlier about I think you said young woman who's autistic and felt like guilty about getting help and not doing it on her own.
Yeah.
What we're doing at SourceAbled is we're leveling the playing ground. Because, as unintentional as it might be, a lot of times there are obstacles put up when it comes to job searching for individuals with disability. And we're kind of trying to level that so we're coming to an equal playing ground. And part of that is when somebody registers as a job seeker with us, they have an instant network right there. Because the first thing they're going to do is talk to one of our people who learns more about them. Then all of our recruiters are going to see their skill set. Well, if recruiter Ann doesn't see a job that's good for Dave who's looking, then I'm going to share the resume with somebody else. Like, oh, I know such and such is looking for somebody. So they're networking for you right there. Also, once we submit your skill set to a hiring manager, the hiring manager is required by our program to review your resume and give us feedback. So that hiring manager, let's say he hires you, great. But if he doesn't, he's going to see your resume, have his eyes on your skill set and say, well, I can't use this person, but I think hiring manager such and such is looking for somebody. Mm-hmm. So again, it takes on a life of its own. And you have this kind of built-in networking system like right away from the get-go.
Yeah, that's how I love to think of it. And and Mike, maybe MRC is something similar. You mentioned in your own career that you've worked with thousands of individuals with disabilities, helping to get them into viable long-term careers. Can you tell us about some of the most effective ways or places that you've seen networking done?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Anne was saying before, networking can happen in so many different ways and places. Depending on your goals and industry that you're in. So, some of the most effective methods and venues that I've seen for networking are professional conferences and events. But make sure if you go to a conference or event, you make sure that you talk to those tables at front where they have they're giving out tchotchkes, things along those lines. Mm-hmm. Those people have a ton of information and connections for you to go on forward with a particular company. Networking with organizations and associations. So joining professional groups or associations related to your studies is definitely going to be helpful. Online networking platforms. So platforms like LinkedIn are fantastic for networking. So find those industry-specific groups, engage in the groups, just don't be passive. Connect with professionals who share your interests. So that's going to be very helpful. Don't shy away from your alumni networks. Not only can you find those on LinkedIn, but a lot of educational institutes have alumni networks that offer networking opportunities. There's also volunteering, giving back, while networking is definitely a win-win. I myself have taken advantage of this so many times, being on the board of directors for a couple of different nonprofit organizations has helped me out find new jobs in the future. You also want to attend different professional workshops and seminars. You can even find these on LinkedIn and Facebook. So attending these seminars, getting active with them, you get a chance to meet people with similar interests. Let's see, personal connections, kind of like what Ann was saying before, and different referrals. So networking doesn't always have to be formal. Your personal connections, whether it's your friends, your family, different acquaintances, can introduce you to others, as Ann showcased, and industry-specific online forums and communities. So the online forums and communities could be centered around your industry. They're great for networking and exchanging knowledge. But remember, networking is about building relationships. So you have to be authentic, show genuine interest in others, be willing to help and support others whenever possible. But it's about consistency and being very proactive. It's key to building a strong professional network. So keep on putting yourself out there and nurturing those connections.
Great advice, Mike. I'll just echo two things. One is to be as proactive as you possibly can. You really can't sit back and be passive with this, because there are so many others out there who are trying to do the same thing. The other thing, Mike, you mentioned that I just really love, I don't think it's talked about enough, is volunteering. It's a great way to connect with people who are passionate about the same things you are. And it's a great way to find people who are authentic, genuine helpers. They're volunteering their time. They're not doing it typically for any other reason. These are people who are there for the right reasons, and they're the ones you want to be networking with.
That's correct.
And could you provide any last insights into the importance of networking and any effective ways for students to network and connect with professionals in the industry or professionals in the community who could help with their job search?
Well, again, I just think networking is crucial, and a lot of that comes from personal experience. As far as networking professionally, I mean, I think one good way as you're still in college is to network with your professors, because they have, their eyes and ears on a lot of different things. I mean, companies like ourselves are always reaching out to the schools and looking for talent, same, I'm sure, with MRC. So reaching out to those type of things. But you had already touched on it, both of you actually. Volunteering is a huge way to get ingrained in a company that you might want to be in. And there's nothing wrong with volunteering to be, as an example, a receptionist. Let's say you want to be a physical therapist. Okay, be a receptionist at a physical therapy company. That's great. I had another example, but I have a niece who wanted to become an architect. And she was a receptionist at an architect firm. And as time came on, in addition to answering the phones, they started having her proof information about the architectural work they were doing. She was learning from this. Eventually, they let her sit in on a few meetings just so she could see what it was like. These are very, very valuable experiences and connections that she's now made, so that when she's ready or is looking, she can reference back to those other professionals. And I think, like-minded people like like-minded people. So if you have another architect or architectural firm that's going to help network to somebody she's looking at, that's very powerful.
Absolutely. It's great advice. And Ann and Mike, we're doing great on time. We're at a 30-minute mark. We're approaching our final topic of the day. So we've talked about how to craft an elevator pitch about yourself, and then maybe how and when to implement that and how to network with people. But now we also want to talk, Mike, about, say we're talking about a summer vacation or a long holiday break. And we see lots of students with disabilities and without disabilities struggle with how to use, that time best. And we've talked about this. We think students with disabilities often don't get the same guidance towards corporate internships at big companies that their neurotypical peers get to experience. So what are some tips that you might offer to students on how to make the most of their time off from school? What should they be working on?
Yeah, it's a fantastic time for students to make the most time off from school. Here's some of the things I would suggest out there. So setting personal goals, Do they want to improve a particular skill, going towards new interests, gaining work experience? So setting goals are going to give them a sense of direction and motivation during their break. They need to focus on transferable skills. So they're super valuable in any setting, including corporate internships. Students, they could work on skills like communication, teamwork, problem solving, time management, organization, and adaptability, and engage in activities like volunteering, organizing events, or joining clubs to develop the skills. They could explore internships or work experiences. Some may not be readily available, but there may be some part-time opportunities out there. So keep on looking for those positions, even during the school year, even while you're on break, to try to figure out what you could do to build up your skill set. And take advantage of online courses and workshops. There's a lot of quick hits out there. I don't think that people realize what's offered in the community for free. If you have a particular interest in an area out there, I'm sure that you could find some free digital badges that are associated with that in the coursework. Within the state of Massachusetts, our Boston Public Library, they offer free courses through LinkedIn Learning. So that's always an option to build up your skill sets. And once again, I know we were pushing this quite a bit, but engage in that volunteer work. It's an excellent way to give back, develop the skills, gain experiences. And like you said, Dave, it's a chance to meet people who are similar to yourself. So that way you could develop connections going forward in the future. So some of those things that you could do for volunteering are tutoring, assisting local organizations, or even participating in community projects, which are happening all the time throughout your municipalities, throughout your state, regardless of where you are. And some people that I know who I've helped out personally, they've been starting personal projects. So I definitely encourage students to pursue a personal project that matches their hobbies or interests. And it could be anything from starting a blog, creating a website, developing an app, engaging in some sort of creative endeavor that could showcase their skill sets. Another element out there is networking and seeking mentorship. So it's valuable for students, as we've enforced before. Reach out to professionals in their desired fields, attend virtual networking events, connect with alumni or mentors. Building those connections, it's going to open up the doors for guidance and potential opportunities out there. And reflect and document experiences. I'm big on this one. Students all the time, they complete a paper and then they do nothing with it. Take those papers, recycle them, use them as a blogging tool on a site such as Medium or LinkedIn groups to journal your success and talk about what your knowledge is out there. Become a good force within your industry. And remember, while it's important to stay productive, students should also find a balance to take time for relaxation and self-care during the summer. So recharging is just as important before the school year starts again.
I'm so glad you mentioned it, Mike, because we don't want you to, break your backs over your break. You need to recharge. You need to take care of yourself. But at the same time, we're just giving you some advice because we have seen at times candidates with these barriers can sometimes take a step back during these downtimes. And we want to make sure you're encouraged and you have ways to take advantage of the downtime or free resources you might be able to utilize. And we just heard a great list of ways from Mike maybe to bring transferable skills or to build some skills. Do you have any additional tips or advice for students who are actively seeking employment and who want to make the most of their transferable skills to get that job?
I think everything Mike said was amazing, and I totally agree with him. I think sometimes the people, especially some of the more entry-level individuals who haven't had a lot of career experience yet, they may not quite understand how to pull out those transferable skills, or maybe even exactly what we mean by that. So, I've heard so many people, they look at their resume and they look at the job and they're like, well, I can't do that. I'm like, what about your transferable skills? I don't have any. Yeah, you do. You just don't realize it. So just to use a Pfizer example, an entry-level job, process tech, it might say communications, ability to follow step-by-step procedures, ability to break down equipment and sanitize. And I'm looking at somebody as an example that has experience working at, I'll just say McDonald's, and they're thinking, yeah, I have no transferable skills. Yes, you do. Did you put together that order? Did you follow it step-by-step instructions? Were you communicating with the customers? Were you breaking down the fry machine at the end of the night and cleaning it? That's sanitizing. There are transferable skills that they don't even realize they have.
Right.
Like Mike said too, the volunteering experiences are huge. And even though we tell people think about that, a lot of the times they still don't know how to pull that out. So for instance, did you do a fundraiser somewhere, with your school? Well, you're marketing, you're communicating, there's all sorts of skills that these individuals have that they don't always realize that they have. So take a deep look at what you have to offer, because you have a lot to offer. And I'm quite sure you'll have transferable skills. If you can't find them, call us. We'll help you find them.
Yeah, sometimes it's easy to overlook them, and sometimes it's easier for someone outside just to point them out. So we can help you identify them. Mike, how can students effectively showcase the transferable skills on their resumes or on online profiles? You mentioned all these great ideas to build products, to write blogs, or to build projects, etc. Are there specific formats or strategies that can help people stand out to employers with this?
Absolutely. Since they're just starting out, I would try a skills-based or a combination resume format. So instead of a traditional chronological resume out there, try using a skill-based or combination. That way you could highlight your transferable skills right at the beginning of your resume. Focus on what you bring to the table rather than just listing your previous experiences. And then playing off of what Ann just said too, I was thinking about this, is try to quantify your experience as well. For example, with the McDonald's, in a different industry, I had somebody who was working for DSW who approached me, and they showed me what their resume was and said, I need a little bit of help with this. And I said, let's try quantifying these things. Like how many times or how many customers do you handle per hour? What do you think you bring in terms of revenue per day for the company? Same thing with McDonald's. You might handle 300 orders within a shift and be able to get those at 99% quality rating. So that's something that you want to consider with that. But also for a resume, tailor your skills to the job requirements. So take a look at different descriptions out there. Identify the key skills that our employers are looking for, and then customize your transferable skills section to highlight some of the ones that align to those job descriptions. Now, I'm not saying embellish on anything or fib on it. I'm saying focus on what you actually did on the job or in your volunteer work and use similar language, keywords. I think that's going to be able to help you out in grabbing the attention of the hiring managers. Share specific examples. So just don't list off stuff as my individual from DSW did. Provide some real life examples of how you applied those skills to different situations. Be able to talk about those too. So be able to talk about specific projects, accomplishments, experiences that demonstrate your proficiency out there. Quantify your achievements. You want to be able to highlight your experience description. So if you have any work experience, make sure you highlight your transferable skills within that job description. Talk about those projects and tasks that you utilize those skills and positive outcomes that you achieved. You want to have a chance to showcase in your skill summary or an objective statement. So you want to get the reader's attention right away, similar to what we did within our elevator pitch, and have a hook, a profile, a summary right at the beginning. So that way people understand what you're trying to do is an objective statement. Include a concise overview of those transferable skills so that way it identifies your key strengths. And one of the other key things, I know I mentioned it before about LinkedIn, but optimize your online presence. So extend those efforts on your online profiles, LinkedIn, create an online profile if appropriate, or online portfolio, and optimize your profile by incorporating those keywords in there, showcasing your skill sets, creating summaries surrounding what you did for work and on projects. And if you can, if you do some volunteer experience, they're happy with what you do, request different testimonials or recommendations so that way you could showcase that out there. And don't be afraid to approach professors, your colleagues on testimonials or different types of recommendation. Those endorsements are going to help you out. But remember, always be genuine and truthful about your skill set. As I mentioned before, customize your resume and online profiles to match specific job requirements, always key. And by effectively showcasing transferable skills in a conversational yet professional manner, the students are going to be able to grab the attention of potential employers. And they're going to increase their chances of getting interviews and job opportunities.
They absolutely will, Mike. Thank you for that. Anne and Mike, we're down to our final question. Anne, I'll go to you first. Can you share any examples of how transferable skills have helped you personally in your career?
Sure.
Can you tell us about how they contribute to your success in your current role?
Sure. I like I mentioned earlier, my first career was marketing research, and when my oldest son was evident that he needed me to stay home because of challenges he was having, I thought I'd be home 2 or 3 years. I was home, I think it was 15 years. Well, going back into my field, like I thought I was going to do marketing research. One, I'd been out a long time, and yeah, I knew marketing research, but technology, everything had changed so much. And so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I really pulled on the transferable skills. I tried to think, first of all, okay, if I'm not doing marketing research, what's my passion? Well, it's working in the population that my son lives in. So I started pulling on those transferable skills. I did a lot of volunteer work when my kids were in grade school, a lot of communication, a lot of marketing of fundraisers. But I also was a key advocate for my son with disabilities. So I started looking at using those transferable skills to work for a nonprofit company that worked with people within that population. And it's served me well. I mean, I've also, drew on past experiences in marketing for communications and things of that nature as well. But again, it was like I was starting over, and being able to pull from those transferable skills just in my day-to-day life and volunteering. I really think that's how I ended up starting my second career, which was working with this population that I love.
And we're so glad you did. That's a fantastic illustration, Anne. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Mike, how about you? Can you give some examples of how transferable skills have helped you personally in your career and contributed to your success and growth even at MRC?
Absolutely. I think like the key things behind it are having flexibility and adaptability to really take advantage of your transferable skills. And sometimes you could control them in a fantastic way, as Anne did. With myself, there was a point in my career where I said I was building learning management systems, and it was new for the companies I was building it for. So like University of Phoenix and State Street Bank built infrastructures for them so that way they could do their internal online learning. But once you do one and then you do 25 of the same exact thing, it starts to get boring after a while. Right. So I said, okay, well, what are the skills that I have currently that I could bring into a different profession? And I took a look at the skill sets that exist in building learning management systems and saw the same exact skill sets that were being used within marketing. I ended up using those skill sets, changing it around so that way it matched the descriptions of what employers were looking for, and transferred my whole entire skill set over to social media marketing. But then I was able to eventually bring both of those things back into play again, both learning development, as well as marketing, converge those two together with my skill sets of doing recruiting into this position where it's at today. So it helps out to have a recognition of those skill sets, what they could be doing within different industries, and being able to adapt those and be versatile so that way you can move into different job opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wow, you guys gave fantastic answers. I want to thank you again so much. Well, first, thanks for joining us, everyone. This has been Elevate Your Potential, Learn to Market Yourself. I want to thank Ann Fahey at Pfizer SourceAbled and Mike Sanders at Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, or MRC, for lending us your expertise and your experience today. Final word for you attending, thank you. Enjoy your time off, but make the most of your time off. Right? Make the most of the resources and networks that have been made available to you. Be bold and be proactive. And know that you're not alone, right? You don't have to do this alone. Help is here, and help is free from places like SourceAbled and Voc Rehab for people with disabilities. So take this time to better prepare yourself, get that elevator pitch ready, understand who and where and when you might network, and be ready to showcase your talents, your transferable skills, all of your skill sets, to help launch your career. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.
Bye. Thank you.